Okay, so I am currently live, and this is going to be a collaborative project. So brace yourselves for the surprise stream, completely unplanned. I'm going to wait for hack breaks to make an entrance.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
They should be able to, yeah. The desktop audio is reacting. Yeah, let me raise that a little bit though, so that you're more audible. Okay, so there we go.
Alrighty.
Yeah. So this is going to be the Apple event, the Apple Keynote, I suppose. The September event. This is going to be a breakdown, completely organized by Mr. Hackbricks here. So he will be our tour guide.
Awesome. So Tech, how much information, I know you were probably working today. How much information have you gathered about this keynote?
All I know is just that there is a new watch, in fact, and also that there's a new iPhone, but like that's a given.
Okay, cool. Alrighty, cool. So you're pretty fresh. So it'll be interesting to kind of gauge your reactions on things um, throughout this keynote. The the Apple official one was, I think, just over an hour long. Um, they covered, myriad of different hardware and software, some services that they had.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be really interesting to kind of go through that um, together, kind of get your opinions on things, see how you're feeling about it. Um,
Sure.
Kind of completely unbiased, and fresh.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be super biased since it is going to be.
Perfect.
Yeah. And we have Dizzy YTT actually coming in saying,
Awesome.
Isn't it past your bedtime?" Which he is correct because it is 10:39 p.m. where I live.
Good God. I
Yeah.
have I have a early morning like gym thing to do at like 7 a.m., which I am not an early morning person, so that'll be a really interesting experience for me, waking up that early.
Once you get into the habit of doing that, you're going to feel way, way better when you wake up in the morning. That much I
Yeah,
can promise.
there's this meme of like um, Kermit the Frog on a couch, and it's like, I hate when people ask me what I did all day. I woke up at 12 and now it's 5. That's literally my life, like for the most part. That's exactly how I live.
Man, when I was doing YouTube full time, well, I wasn't waking up at 12, but like let's say that I would wake up at 10 and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I already have to um start the stream soon at 8 p.m. Like time just flies.
Yeah, I'm actually a little excited to start waking up a little bit earlier, having a little bit more of the day. But I mean, we'll uh we'll see how I feel in the morning at 7 a.m. When I wake up before the sun does.
It's going to suck at first. Keep that in mind. Now,
All
all
right,
of
so
you. Oh, sorry.
yeah. I was just saying, just let me know when we've got or when we're ready to kind of start moving through this
Sure,
keynote.
sure thing. So we got Koi PK SAO who hasn't been here in quite a while. Crazy late night stream. I know, right? I feel uh like I might not be able to wake up to go to work tomorrow because of the stream. First like from Gruigi, thank you. Also, hello. Dizzy YTT, still can't believe you're streaming late. I know, me neither. It just kind of happened that way. Now, don't expect that to happen very often. It's not
Tech,
late for me. Says
Tech, what
Gruigi.
happens? What happens if you realize that there's a larger audience for you later on at night? Does this change your stream schedule?
Maybe. Perhaps. A very strong maybe. I found that for some time that 8 p.m. seemed to be a pretty good time, but it seems like people don't really mind later, since most people do stay up later.
Alrighty. Do you wanna start breaking this live stream down?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Alrighty. So I kind of started with the TLDR just to kind of, go through what was announced and everything. What I found that was really interesting about this particular, um, like Apple keynote that they did was it was extremely California focused. Like every transition that they used was references, to places in California. Um, they referenced it quite a lot throughout the stream, um, which I don't really know kind of the meaning behind that, other than, Apple's obviously from California. They're headquartered there, and the Mac-based operating systems are all California locations. So I don't know if that's a nod to maybe them potentially expressing new operating system names in the future. It could be nothing at all. But it was really interesting. It was the first time that I really saw them be so heavily focused on a particular area in a live stream that's really more catered to hardware and software that they, kind of
I see.
hone.
I do
Yeah,
see in the bullet points here a couple of things, and I've noticed some very important things that are going to be coming up later. Though, regarding the focus on the whole shoot going on in California, um, it could be related to them renaming the next version of their OS something like San Francisco.
yeah.
But
Um,
it could also really mean nothing, and I think that they just wanted to shoot there.
I captured one of the transitions that's going to be in a slide coming up, just so you can see like how drastically different it is from previous streams that they've done.
Hmm.
A lot of like I guess ever since the COVID happened, they have been kind of being a little bit more creative with their transitions between speakers within the keynote. This one just happened, like, for the most part, all of the previous ones were transitions inside Apple's, main campus. So that big, UFO looking campus, they would do some pretty interesting transitions from one location of the campus to another. This one, almost the entire, like almost every transition that they used was different locations in California. Um, so super interesting. I don't really know what that's gonna entail, or if we're gonna see more of that in the future. But it was one thing to kind of note. Other than that, we've got new hardware. So new iPad, not a iPad Air or iPad Pro, but
Right.
the base model iPad. They did a refresh to the iPad Mini. We got a new Apple Watch. We got an iPhone 13, an iPhone 13 Mini, an iPhone 13 Pro, and an iPhone 13 Pro Max.
So
What
that
was
trend is
interesting,
sticking, huh?
yeah, I was so a couple of things here. I was hoping that they were going to change the name from 13 because like I get the concept of going 1 through 12. Um, However, now we're starting to get into the teens. It seems like for me, it would make more sense to come up with a new naming scheme moving forward, especially with like 13 being kind of a negative number in most um, y- you know
Like in
areas of the
some,
world.
yeah, right. Like in some countries, it's kind of a big deal. But uh, I think that the number 13 is probably fine. However, let's see if I still feel that way afterwards, because I have a feeling that this is going to end up being an iPhone 12s type of upgrade.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not going to spoil anything, um, but it's interesting that you would feel that way. Some other things that to note here, things that we didn't get that a lot of people were expecting to get were new AirPods. That was one thing that I was really hoping for. Um, I know that this is also a primarily iPhone event. The inclusion of the iPads are kind of unique. Typically, Apple holds like an October event that's more iPad focused. It was interesting to see that them throw the iPads in, you know, this, uh, this keynote as opposed to their traditional October keynote. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know what that says for, the rumored October keynote that's coming up. I'm hoping that we maybe see some refreshes to the laptops because um, me personally, I've been holding out for a M1 or M1X or M2, um, I like MacBook Pro 16-inch, which
Mm-hmm.
they have not released yet. Um, so maybe they're just clearing time for that October event to kind of be more uh, computer or Mac OS focused. But time's gonna tell. This is just speculation at this point.
I think that
Um,
it could very well be still focused on the iPad in October, but not so much on the hardware side, but probably on the software side, since there have been a lot of things that people have been requesting on the software end. Things such as, for instance, um, an actual decently sized cursor for the iPad whenever using a trackpad or mouse with it, which should have already been a thing when they released their own trackpad case or
right.
keyboard case with a trackpad on it, the Magic Keyboard.
Yeah, the cursor thing is really weird. You get this like little circle that kind of snaps to different pieces of the operating system that it thinks that you're trying to go towards. Um, so I mean, I'm interested to see kind of what that next operating system looks like. They did touch on it in this this keynote, um, and I am running the betas of the pretty much the entire suite of Apple products. So like iOS beta, iPad OS beta, Apple TV beta, and the Apple Watch beta. And you are seeing some things come out of that, but the cursor not one of them.
Well,
So
hopefully in October. I,
yeah,
I,
it could be something that they're just holding out to kind of surprise us with in this October event.
what a tease they're being. I can't believe it. Ultra Pranks is actually here in the chat, and he's like, "Is that hacks?" And to
Yeah.
that, I say, "Yeah."
So nice to see that you're here, Ultra Pranks. I appreciate you kind of joining this impromptu stream. Um, it was completely out of the blue. I reached out to Tech earlier today and said, hey, I remember you talking about maybe doing an iPad or a keynote update or breakdown. What if we kind of work together on this and kind of do it? And, here we are.
Yeah,
So
here we are on a Zoom call, back in school.
so so first thing that Apple touched on was Apple TV Plus. Honestly, I felt this was more of a flex um, than anything else from Apple. They were really keen on kind of talking about how many wins, not just in Emmys, but different um, you know uh, video or movie or TV focused events that they've won. Interesting points. There was 130 wins in the last 2 years, 500 nominations for Apple TV Plus programming.
Oh
So
my gosh, look at that. Apple should be
pretty,
proud, and clearly they are.
yeah. They touched on their Emmy nominations. So 35 primetime Emmy nominations this year. what's really crazy is 20 of those are from the TV show Ted Lasso, which I don't know. I mean, I, I don't think you've spoke on, kind of the programming that you watched. Have you watched Ted Lasso yet?
I've never watched it, no. I know of it.
So, I mean, it's a really interesting TV series. It's definitely more of like a feel good series that you can kind of, kind of put on and watch. There's some really quirky moments. For a comedy, it's probably one of the better comedy TV series that I've seen in a really long time. Um, and some of the themes that they focus on are, um, pretty not necessarily mature, but they go about those themes in a very mature way, um, and kind of focus on that. So um, that was
Okay.
pretty much everything that they talked about in terms of, nominations and wins. They
Mm-hmm.
did throw a highlight reel up where you saw like a lot of their programming, and then they started giving us some kind of previously known um, release dates for a lot of their programming. I think there was two pieces of programming that they showed, or two TV series, maybe movies. I don't really know. I haven't looked into them too much. Um, that they showed off in this. One of them is Invasion,
Hmm.
which I think has um, one of the guys from the New Girl, um, that the series, the TV show, The New Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it has one of the main actors from that in it. The other one that I've never seen before, and that could be just that I'm out of touch. I don't have cable, so I don't see a lot of um, commercials. But another one that I saw was Swagger, which appears to be like a basketball themed TV series.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then one other one that I hadn't seen before um, was Finch, which is with um, the guy who played in the movie Greyhound on Apple TV Plus.
Man,
Yeah,
I really
I,
wish I could remember.
Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks. So it has Tom Hanks in it. I think that one's uh, revolving around like maybe the end of the world. I saw he's got a robot and a dog, and they're, like venturing into storms or something like that. I don't know. It seems pretty interesting. Um, what was really interesting about this entire thing is their programming starting this week has a new premiere or a new movie airing every week until um, November 12th, with the exception of like 2 weeks in the first 2 weeks in October. So every week they're issuing a new premiere. Um, so like 9/17, there's the morning show, which is this Friday.
Mm.
Foundation, which is that um, it's the like that really sci-fi heavy show that people have kind of been looking forward to premiering. Apple started pushing that like over a year ago, so that comes out on the 24th. There's a new uh, looks like talk show style show with Jon Stewart that premieres on the 30th. Invasion, which I think is a movie, I'm not 100% on that, is 10/22. Swagger is 10/29. Finch is 11/5. The Shrink Next Door is 11/12. And the Shrink Next Door is the one with Will Ferrell and I can't think, Paul Rudd.
Okay.
So um, they didn't spend a ton of time on it, but that was what they opened with. I thought it was interesting that they opened with that. Um,
Did they,
and I mean,
by any chance, introduce new hardware like a new Apple TV box?
no, I thought that they were going to do that too, especially kind of focusing on Apple TV Plus from the start, but no new hardware for Apple TV.
That is
Um,
a shame.
yeah, so uh, so that was pretty much it for Apple TV Plus. This is one of those transitions that I was talking about. So this is um, the transition from Tim Cook to the person who's going to be talking about the iPad. Um, and you can tell it's like
Hmm.
really, kind of focused on areas around California. I thought it was really unique and different. They hadn't really done this before. So, um,
The show floor here actually looks pretty familiar. Like it reminds me a lot of the software keynote that they did last year. I don't know
yeah,
if you remember, but they had to
I
do it around Apple headquarters.
yeah, I don't know if they're using assets inside Apple headquarters for like the final transition. If you kind of watch that again, let me see if I can throw that back up. Um, so you can see a point at the very end where there's obviously a camera transition,
Hmm.
and I'll point it out as soon as we get to it. Um, it's when they like it's coming up. They're gonna kind of tilt down to the floor, um, right here, and you can kind of tell there's.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
was
it's
like a
definitely
cross blur.
yeah, definitely not the same venue. So I don't know what venue this is. If it's a venue at all, it could be digital assets that they're, piping in over a green screen. Um, who knows? But
Hmm.
the those transitions are pretty interesting. Like, it's definitely nothing I've seen before. Like with Apple doing, especially with it being out there in California. And the relatively long transitions. I mean, it's not like a short, 2-second transition over.
Yeah.
So really interesting to see. Um, so iPads got introduced. We've got um, a new, well, not a new, but the new iPad has an A13 Bionic chip. It's got a new 12 megapixel ultra wide um, camera, and you're going to notice this across the iPad Mini as well. They're enabling center stage for pretty much their entire iPad lineup. It looks like I think the only thing that's not going to have center stage now is the iPad Air, which I'm relatively confident that they're going to refresh in October. Um,
I don't think so.
and no,
I really don't think so. I think that it's a little bit too recent for that. Like when it comes to like tablet upgrades, I'm pretty used to seeing the upgrades happening like every 2 years or so, and I think it's going to be the same for the iPad Air, if not maybe even a little bit longer.
so the only problem that I see with that is the center stage thing is such a big deal when we talk about remote learning, um, and things of that nature, especially with schools not necessarily being in person as much this year. Some schools having hybrid environments, and with you know this whole pandemic, um, the want to be able to communicate with you know the people that you know and love digitally. It really puts it's a really key feature that I think Apple's pushing relatively hard, and it's a huge selling point. And if they don't refresh the iPad Air, even if it's just a nominal refresh with just the camera upgrade, I think that it's going to hurt Air sales because now you can get an iPad for 329 with that front-facing ultra-wide, you know, camera. So if you were holding out for that, um, now the cheapest iPad that they've got is going to do that.
Huh. Okay. Well, firstly, I was going to ask you about the price tag of it, and 329 does sound about right for an iPad mini. Um so
So this
I'm
is this is not a mini. This is the just base model iPad.
Oh, okay. Because
So
I was actually going to mention a particular complaint of mine with us because I thought that it was the mini, and it was that it still has like the bezels of the iPhone 7.
right,
So like I was really hoping to just see like a really tiny, uh, I guess slightly underpowered iPad Mini. So
Right.
if that's something that's coming up, then
I mean,
then we're building
we
up to
definitely have
something.
an i we definitely have a new iPad Mini coming up. This is like their bare bones entry level iPad. So 329 for everybody. If you're in education, it's 299. I don't necessarily know if that's students. I think that's specific to educational institutions
Mm.
that are purchasing, in bulk. Um, that 299 price point, but I could be wrong. I haven't done enough research on that. The other thing that they've introduced is a True Tone display. Um, on this, some talking points that they hit on: the A13 Bionic is 20% faster in performance um, than the predecessor iPad. They did, you know, talk about some of the competition. It's 3 times faster than a Chromebook and 6 times faster than an Android tablet. So the
Sorry,
they
you had me at Chromebook there.
yeah, they may have been throwing some shade at some of the competition.
I wouldn't even consider Chromebooks to really be like competition in that regard because there are more limitations to a Chromebook inherently. Like I would definitely split uh those like those two products as having
So
them as totally like different products.
you're right if you're talking about consumer based purchasers. I think they were keen on talking about this because in the education market, there's um, pushes for Chromebooks for a lot of you know middle schools and high schools to be um,
Yeah.
given out to students. And Apple has really been trying to push into that education market. Um, with their, like school focused
Hmm.
software that they have available. And, I think that this iPad is one of the biggest purchasers are going to be, K through 12, uh, schools. And so talking about how it's 3 times faster than a Chromebook in that instance may be
Does
a
make a
big.
lot of sense.
Exactly. It may be
Yeah.
a big talking point and may be a contributing factor to some schools switching from Chromebooks to iPads, especially if those schools are having, issues with the slowness of those Chromebooks.
I disagree because
No?
yeah, and the reason why is because there are Chromebooks that are considerably cheaper. Like there are some that are about half of the price of this iPad. And Chromebooks don't really need like great hardware in order to run Chrome OS all that well. So I still think that when it comes to schooling, I do think that Chromebooks are still going to dominate uh, because this is not really price wise, it's not competing that well, and there really might not be much of a need for that boost in performance versus what a Chromebook can provide.
Yeah, I think that the only counter to that is going to be um possibly um some more in like more intensive applications, and specifically more of the like Apple's really been focusing on trying to get like e-textbooks and interactive e-textbooks onto the
Mm-hmm.
iPads, which I think is a selling point internal for schools. I do think that the price is a little high for most public K-12 um, schools. I think that they probably wanted to get that price point down, but with chip shortages and everything else, um, you just really didn't see that this go around. So
Uh,
they definitely have an uphill battle when it comes to pricing.
there's that, but if they really wanted to cut down on pricing, then they could have done things like, for instance, not have the fingerprint scanner on there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Um,
Like there are some corners that they could have cut that I'm sure most students won't really care about to bring that price even lower.
you're absolutely right because in an educational environment, those Touch IDs are never used.
No, you're not
You know,
allowed to use
they're
it actually.
right. Yeah. Um, so I mean, and I'm sure that's why they didn't spend the money on putting the Touch ID and the you know power button or
Hmm.
top. I think Apple refers to it as the top button. Now it's not considered a power button anymore. Um,
Oh, I thought it was just a sleep wake button.
yeah, maybe um, they refer to it as I think the top button. I've got it in one of the show notes a little bit later on. I think they referred to it as the top button this go around. So I don't know if that's hinting at upcoming functionality changes in that button, but we'll kind of see. So that was pretty much it for the iPad, the base level iPad, as I would call it. Uh, they so they announced that you can order it today, and it's going to be available next week.
Yeah,
Um,
sounds about right. Now,
so
I want to ask you, like, what do you think about this iPad?
I definitely wouldn't be buying it. It's just not an iPad for me. Um, I think that there's some features that it's missing. Um, from a business standpoint, I don't really find it's a good business iPad either. I really think that most businesses are going to be either going to the iPad Air or the iPad Mini, depending on the type of industry that you're in. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they chose to make these types of changes. To me, what I would have liked to see is a lower cost of entry, maybe and maybe just upgrading the camera and the chipset. I think that all the other stuff like the spending money on the True Tone, um, not really needed.
Yeah,
um, you know even Touch ID for an entry level iPad, I don't
mm-hmm.
necessarily know is needed. um,
It won't be
but again, that
used
yeah.
by students, really.
Uh, so I mean, I don't really know. I don't know what they were thinking.
Ew. I'm seeing the
But
old keyboard on there.
yeah. So couple of bads. Doesn't support the new Apple Pencil. Doesn't support the new keyboards. Um, doesn't have USB-C. Um, so it's still Lightning.
I can
Um,
understand that, I guess.
yeah, but if you're gonna keep the price point, those are some quality of life improvements that I don't think would have been significant to do. Um,
Yeah,
I
that's
could
fair
be
too.
I could be off, but that's kind of what I thought. Um, so
Alrighty.
they touched on iPad OS. So a couple of key things here that they touched on is widgets on the home screen, which all of the stuff we knew was coming. They mentioned it, and I kind of harped on it a couple of times. So I thought I would mention it here.
Mm.
New multitasking control and Quick Note paired with the Apple Pencil Generation One, which is a way for you to quickly take notes on your new base model iPad.
Dare I add that if you wanted to use this iPad properly, like as a school a device, as a device for studying, you might want a keyboard. Maybe not the Apple Pencil, but at least the keyboard. However, let's say that you did still want that Apple Pencil. I'm pretty sure that Apple Pencil, first gen, still sells for over $100. The keyboard definitely sells for over $100. So we're talking here about essentially a $500 device. I would argue actually that at that point maybe it's competing more so with the Samsung Galaxy Tab, or to take it even further, the Surface tablets.
Well, they did mention that it was 6 times faster than Android tablets. So, um,
Well, which ones?
I, I don't know.
Y-
I know.
because for instance,
It's
the Galaxy Tab S7, very fast. It's a fantastic tablet. But then, if you try to use a Galaxy Tab S3 today, and maybe they ran the comparisons that way, or they just bought, or like they're just comparing it to like your average typical Android tablet, like the ones that would be more so like around the $150 range ish. I think then like I can kind of see what they were going for here, but I'm still lost on why this is what they chose to focus on, and considering that this is supposed to be for schools, I think that they should have had a better deal for the keyboard at least.
Yeah, so they did mention a new Logitech keyboard that's coming out that's compatible with it. Again, you're right. No school in their right mind is going to put an iPad in the hands of a kid without, at the bare minimum, a case on it. Um, and even that first generation Apple Pencil, I mean, that's a pretty hefty, you know, cost that you're incurring to give that kind of functionality to kids. And
Mm-hmm.
also, it's not one of the things that most people don't think about, but in education, um, is really prevalent. Is that's a piece of device that's not tethered to the iPad. Um, so the odds of it getting lost, damaged, stolen are significantly higher. Um, it, on a $100 or $150, pencil, um, as opposed to something that would attach to the iPad or attach
Mm-hmm.
to a case um, in
Well,
some way that's included.
this one technically does attach to the iPad. If you need to charge it, you need to
Yeah,
plug it in from the
yeah,
bottom. Oh, well, maybe that's why maybe that's why they kept Lightning. Maybe.
yeah. I think that that's probably the only reason. Um, they didn't want to put the money into the second generation iPad, and they couldn't really sell, or the second generation Apple Pencil, and they couldn't really sell an iPad that only supports the first generation, but doesn't have a way to charge that Apple Pencil. So
Yeah. Unless they sold you a dongle.
yeah. Um, so this is kind of what they harped on the iPad OS. So nothing really new. The auto translate app, I've used it. Pretty neat. Not gonna lie, it's way more intuitive than some of the other, translation apps, and it happens real time.
Mm-hmm.
I've used it on my iPad Air, not on this new generation iPad,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the experience is going to be pretty similar. You're definitely able to have a more fluid conversation than you would be able to with a lot of the other translation apps. A lot of the other ones, like you talk into it, it takes a second to register what you said, translates it, and then provides you text based feedback. This one, especially on an iPad, you can sit down in a coffee shop, put the iPad on the table, and have a conversation that's more fluid and natural with both users just being able to read the translated text real time. Um,
I,
so
I
pretty
don't think that this feature will get used all that often.
I mean, I hope it does because I could definitely see um, some ways to like for instance, if you're if you're texting back and forth, and there's a really easy this is a really easy API call to be able to you know pop that in natively to a messages app that'll real time translate into uh, your native text. I think that messages kind of does that, but it requires a little bit of user interaction right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if more people are using this translate app, um, I could see them focusing more on adding translative features
Mm-hmm.
into other portions of the OS, which for somebody who travels outside the country a lot and doesn't speak other languages, extremely beneficial for me. So
Gotcha. You know, um, that's kind of how I felt about the Google Pixel Buds when they first came out. Like the original ones that still had that wire in them.
yeah,
Like one of the features that actually captured me about those buds was the translation feature. Like they made it seem like you really could have like a fluent enough or fluid enough conversation with somebody else in a different language. But that just wasn't the case because it would take far too long to translate everything. It would translate it incorrectly, and like it would whisper it into your ear, and it's expecting you to repeat everything that
yeah,
it
yeah.
just said to you. I think that this, since this is more text based, it seems, I think that this will be used a lot more often than that translation feature was used on the Pixel Buds. And I can definitely see how it would be very helpful for somebody like you.
So another thing to kind of notice, and I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but the theme that I have for this keynote is um, what I would consider scraping the bottom of the barrel. Um, Specifically, to your point, the fact that they're harping on the auto translation as a key feature to iPad OS, um, as opposed to maybe some newer innovative features, um, kind of, makes me think that, again, this is probably stuff that was in the pipeline way before COVID hit. Um, but I think that a lot of the, kind of more um, innovative features have definitely been passed on to probably the next generation of operating system and phones, iPads alike. Um, you know, because of because Apple saw a way to kind of stretch their product line a little bit more.
Yeah, I can see that too. And oh my goodness, here it is. Okay.
Yeah. So
Never
so
mind
we
whatever I was going to say. I want to know about this.
so we do have a new iPad Mini. Um, you can kind of uh, see it up here.
It
So
is
it's
what I
got
wanted it to be.
and I don't know if you noticed this, but it also includes the second generation Apple Pencil. So I so as somebody who works in the Apple tech space, um, and I have a company that's based around supporting Apple products in business.
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge win for the medical industry. It's something that a lot of doctors and nurses alike have been asking for, um, and having that come to fruition the way it did uh, is extremely beneficial. One of the things that they touched on was there's a USB-C ultrasound um, adapter that you can purchase for the iPad Mini that'll let you take um, basically mobile ultrasounds with the iPad. So for traveling doctors or Doctors Without Borders, um, you know, people that are going into maybe hostile environments that need, you know, to see patients. The form factor, the fact that it's USB-C. One of the key things about the form factor is it fits into pockets of scrubs, which is huge for people who wear scrubs in the medical industry because they can put it in their pocket, go and you know see patients,
Mm-hmm.
part on the iPad directly. Um, Utilize the USB-C port for additional accessories that could help with echocardiograms, ultrasounds, X-rays. You know, so many opportunities here, and it's really nice to see that they kind of took the iPad Mini and made it what it should have been, um, for a long time. I'm surprised that it took this long. I was hoping to see a full screen um, iPad Mini last year, and that didn't happen. Um, but at least they got to it
Yeah.
now. So, couple of things. New screen design obviously does not have the home button anymore. At the bottom of the screen,
Mm-hmm.
comes in new colors, which this is the first time you're going to hear about one of their, I guess, like um, major new colors. Purple, pink, starlight, which is what they're calling their kind of gold um, style finish this year, and space gray.
Hmm.
So super interesting. Interesting choice of uh, naming for that. Starlight, but you do see that across probably the rest of the um, e- the rest of the hardware that was announced today, is that Starlight in there.
A new color.
It
I feel like that's
does,
usually a thing when it comes to Apple keynotes.
yeah, for sure. Just interesting that it was Starlight and not gold. I mean, it really is a gold color. Like when you see it, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. It's a very more gold style. New liquid retina display, 8.3 inches, same form factor, same size as the older or the previous generation iPad Mini. Just the screen is taking up more space. Um, Touch ID is on the top button. That's what they
It's
called it.
thicker
Um,
as well, so that's another thing to note.
yeah. Um, Performance increases, 40% increase in CPU, 80% increase in GPU, 2 times faster machine learning. This is using the A15 Bionic chip.
Wow.
Um, new chipset. Um,
Yeah, that's
they have
actually something I wouldn't have expected.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Like, if you're looking at purchasing an iPad now, I mean, with them not updating the iPad Air, I would probably heavily gravitate towards this mini or the new Pro that they're rumored to release in October. I don't see a real need for the Air at this point. There's nothing that the Air gives you that this mini doesn't or the Pro doesn't. Um, and the price point is higher than the mini. So you're losing a little bit of screen real estate, but
How much is the mini going to cost?
that's coming up.
Okay.
Let's get through the rest of this. There's a new back camera and front camera. Um, the back camera is a 12 megapixel f1.8 aperture camera with True Tone flash, which was non-existent in the previous version.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have 5G support. They have stereo audio. Um, I think they called it horizontal stereo audio. So, um, not stereo audio when it's vertical like the guy is holding it now, but if you
Mm-hmm.
turn it sideways, you've got a left and a right channel coming up, the left and right side of the iPad.
Makes
Um,
sense.
it includes center stage with a new front-facing camera that's 12 megapixel ultra wide. Um, there's a new they they refer to it as ISP, which is an image signal processor. So it should be less grainy photos when taken in the dark. Um, it supports the second generation Apple Pencil, and then they announced that it has center stage capability. Um,
Lot of great things going for it, hey? I.
so this was the video that they, you know,
Mm-hmm.
used to kind of show off the new Mini. Um, and there's a kind of a really almost funny gimmick, but not quite. You can tell they were going for a comedic, um, you know, piece here, but they kind of just I felt missed it. Um, Overall, though, this commercial is actually a pretty cool commercial. Um,
It's
just
really
the kind of
nicely done, for
yeah,
sure.
the transitions that they're using and um, things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
the
Pretty
fact that the
interesting.
mini is just like changing color in her hands. That's pretty sweet. I can I can see this iPad also being used in a lot of retail stores, like for searching inventory and that kind of thing. So I really love the idea of this iPad, but I still don't
Yeah,
know the price.
I agree with you. Um, I I think that it's going to be probably one of um, the better iPads options out there.
I think so too. I think that this is probably going to be like the one that people end up going for, even though a lot of people really do like that Pro moniker at the end. So they might actually end up going in that direction instead. So one thing that I have noticed is that when it comes to Apple products, people are actually a lot more willing to spend a lot more to get a little bit more from from Apple's own lineup because
Yeah,
it's almost like a luxury tech product to them.
yeah,
Like it's a
it's
statement.
definitely yeah, it's definitely ventured into that like almost designer, um, you know, kind of branding. You're paying a little bit extra for the Apple branding and the Apple exclusivity and their ecosystem that they've kind of built into it. Pricing though, not terribly bad. $499 is what it starts at. Um, so would have been really nice, I think, 359, or even 459 would have been a better price point. 459 is probably what I was going for.
That's honestly a pretty tough sell at 500
Yeah,
bucks.
I think if they're marketing it to the medical industry, they're not going to have any problem selling it.
Sure.
Doctors and nurses alike. So here's just an aside note from inside the industry. Um, most most doctors, well, not really doctors. Doctors are still charting primarily on um, either laptops or desktop computers. The nurses almost are all charting on uh, like old iPod touches, fifth and sixth generation iPod touches, because they're so cheap to get, and um, they provide the functionality that they need. So
Hmm.
there was no real need to do anything more. Apple discontinued their last iPod Touch, I think a week or two ago. Um, so any um, medical uh, facility that has been using iPod Touches is almost 100% going to switch to this iPad Mini for their future purchases.
Sure. If you are in that field, I'm sure that you will. However,
Uh,
let's say that you're a student, which is probably going to be a good chunk of the audience for them.
It's a hard sell for sure,
It is.
especially because they did not come out with um, a keyboard like the smart
Hmm.
keyboard that they have for the iPad Airs and the iPad Pros. Not having that um, and the price point is going to be a tough sell because you can't really use this as, especially if I'm looking at this from a student standpoint. I'm looking at students going into college, maybe in their sophomore to junior year of college, um, who maybe want to lighten their load, um, like weight wise. um, and I don't think that you can do that with this iPad mini. I think that you're going to have to go with an iPad Air. if you kind of want that functionality. Um, so
It
kind of a miss there. Another industry that will benefit greatly from this is pilots. Um, having that they make these leg straps that basically go around like the top half of your leg that you
mhm.
can basically snap in an iPad to kind of have telemetry data, um, real time weather, and things like that while flying. I think that having a larger screen in the same form factor going to be really beneficial for pilots as well. And what we see already, if you fly and you kind of look at what the pilots are using, most of the pilots, at least with United, I think Allegiant, and American Airlines, I mean, at least I can speak on, are all using iPads now. So having a smaller form factor iPad that really gives them the functionality that they need, probably going to be pretty big for them.
Yeah,
And I can see that being a large audience for them to sell to.
because of
Not
the
really.
5G functionality, I would probably say that Uber drivers could probably take advantage of that. To use
A
it
hundred
as a
percent.
GPS. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you're going to see a lot more people. Um, there's going to be, third party uh, audio providers that, make in dash stereos that are going to probably start incorporating this, this iPad mini into it. You saw that a little bit with the previous versions of the iPad minis. Um, but because they now have a more universal USB-C connector, I think you're going to see a little bit more of that starting to show up because they can easily add an AM/FM transmitter, um, into that with some custom like Pioneer branded
Hmm.
software um, that could cut down on a lot of their overhead. Basically all they're selling is like a little module that you take your iPad that you already have or are going to purchase, and kind of plug it in. So they're going to be able to sell it for a premium without actually spending a ton of money on overhead to actually build the in-dash units.
Well,
It's going to be
fair.
interesting to see.
Yeah.
I'm really I think that um, this is probably one of the better things to come out of this keynote. I won't mention the rest until we've kind of gone through the rest of this, but definitely one of the bigger, um, bigger surprises that came out of today.
Yeah. And a happy one as well,
Yeah,
considering that I've been wanting to see an upgrade like that, just not at that price point. So,
so
Apple Watches.
yeah, Apple Watch Series 7. Um, this one pretty surprising. I'm not a huge fan of Apple Watches. I do own one. I own like the stainless steel variant. Um, I think I own a fifth generation. I typically tend to skip um, generations when purchasing the watches.
Hmm.
Um, this one, if for nothing else, the way that it looks like you have like an edge, um, like an like a curved edge screen on it,
Hmm.
um, is really cool. I'm definitely gonna pick one of these up. Um, in terms of functionality, though, not a huge increase in functionality. No new sensors. Um, they came out with. They include a new crack resistant crystal. It's no longer a glass. I don't think. They refer to it as a crystal. It's got a larger screen, bigger buttons. Um, it's a 20% larger screen than the Series 6. The borders on the screen itself are 1.7 millimeters thick, so extremely thin borders. They have some new watch faces, two of them. One of them is the dynamic contour face, um, which if you look at some of the press material that they've released so far, is one of the cooler watch faces. Depending on how you're holding or how you're looking at your watch, the numbers kind of get fatter on the side that um, the watch is being held, and it does look like uh, the text is actually wrapping around the curve of the screen. Um, so super interesting. It's got larger buttons. You can see 50% more text on the screen. It includes a full size keyboard, or well, not a full size keyboard, but a keyboard nonetheless on on the watch, which for me extremely beneficial. I can't tell you how much I hate having to draw out the letters to to type something when I'm in
Hmm.
an area where I can't dictate it.
Yeah.
Um, so definitely beneficial. 70% brighter. Um, we see IP6X dust rating,
Hmm.
which is a first from what I can tell with the watches. Uh,
It's already had
WR
water resistance actually since the second generation. So that's actually been there for quite a while, and I think that they're just reiterating that it is a thing here. Like, hey, it is still
so
water resistant.
I think the WR50 water resistance has been the case. I think that it was IP6 rated in the previous version, and this is now IP6X, um, which means that it's going to do a better job of keeping dust particles or things like that if you're falling down in the dirt from getting into the crevices of the device. Um,
And that's going
does
to be
include
great when it comes
uh,
to being able to keep like the iPad clean.
well, the watch, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
the watch.
but you're right. I think that it's definitely going to be. I don't know how much it's actually going to get used. I think the people they were pretty heavily focused on cycling. They talked a lot about cycling. They have new um, functionality for for people who are using e-bikes. They have the ability to like it will auto start and stop a um, like a fitness activity
Hmm.
that you have while you're cycling. So if you stop cycling for a bit, it'll pause like fitness activity and then restart it again. And they did include some new colors. So midnight, starlight, green, which is like a really dark, like more of like a forest green,
I dig it.
um, blue, and then product red. And they now have a USB-C variant of the Magsafe Charger that is capable of fast charging, which will charge 33% faster. I think they said in 8 minutes of charging, it will provide enough power for 8 hours of sleep tracking. So for people who wanted to use their watch to to track their sleep, but also use their watch all day, this may be a way for them to kind of get both functionalities out of it. Uh, I am just going to tell whether or not that's
Huh.
actually going to be the case.
Pun intended.
We'll we'll see. Yeah. Um, this one we heard rumors of it not being available like the rest of the products. There was some uh, manufacturing delays that caused it to slip. So they said available later this fall. Um,
All right. I mean, I'm interested. Like considering just how many things have improved about it. Like that brighter screen, I thought was actually a pretty strong highlight on that. Uh, but I really want to see somebody using the full keyboard on that tiny watch face.
I'm gonna use it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm definitely gonna use it. We'll see how well it actually works, but
Yeah,
I'm
let me know how that
100% gonna
goes.
try and train myself to. So they then started talking about Apple Fitness Plus. They're adding um, 15 new countries to Fitness Plus later this fall. They stated that the workouts will be in English, but will be subtitled in 6 different languages. So for people who are in like Russia or the Ukraine areas like that, I think it's going to be Russian. There's going to be some Mandarin, I think, for Chinese, a couple of other, maybe French and some other ones. They highlighted them. I didn't write them down. Um, they're adding Pilates to Fitness Plus, which I guess is a feature that people wanted. I
What
don't do Pilates.
what's a Pilates?
Um, I think it's like, from what I understand, and I could be extremely wrong on this. Chat might be able to, kind of either back me up or tell me how wrong I am. It seems like high intensity yoga. Uh, I don't really know that for sure, but they announced that they're adding Pilates as a fitness option. So there's going to be new Pilates classes every week that you can tune in for and do Pilates with the Apple Fitness Plus instructor.
Okay.
They stated they're adding guided meditation to Fitness Plus, and this one's actually kind of interesting because they're coupling it with the mindfulness uh, feature, which is a new feature in the new Watch OS. Um, so while you can watch the guided meditation on your Apple TV, your iPad, or your iPhone, they're also going to have the guided meditation in audio form within the mindfulness app of the watch. So if you're just wanting to do some guided meditation, while you're free and you don't want to take your phone out and all that kind of stuff, you can listen to the audio version directly on the watch itself.
Okay. Sounds like it's going to be very useful. Now the Pilates, I still
Yeah,
have
I don't know
have
about
to
this
know more
Pilates
about
thing.
that. Ultra Prank
I,
says that he does not do yoga, so he's not sure about it either.
yeah, I've heard of it. I see that there's Pilates classes at my gym that I go to. Uh, while almost all of the classes that, like the group classes that you can take at the gym, are free, Pilates for whatever reason is not free. So if that is kind of a standard for most gyms, then I could see this being a great feature for somebody who maybe has Fitness Plus already, uh, that does go to a gym but doesn't want to pay the extra for the Pilates. It could be my gym in particular that does that, and it could be free for other gyms that offer group classes. I don't know, um, but it was one of the things that they harped on. The last thing that they talked about for Fitness Plus in terms of new fitness activities was what they called getting ready for snow season, um, which is going to be some workouts that are going to be hosted by a guy named Ted Ligety. Don't know anything about this guy other than what they've said. He's a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, a 5-time world champion in some type of snowboarding or skiing activity. I don't know which one. And a father of 3. They were really keen on pointing that out, so I just thought I would mention it here as well.
Hey, that's an
I don't.
important fact. I needed to know that he is a
Yeah,
father of 3. If it
yeah.
had been
So
2, it wouldn't have mattered.
yeah, I definitely wouldn't have tuned in for a father of 2, but a father of 3. If he's got that much time on his hands where he can win some Olympic medals and raise 3 kids, that's pretty impressive. Not gonna
Yeah, I look forward to the 4th one. Yeah, let's see what happens.
So, one of the things that they have been talking about for a while that I have not got to play with is um, group activities within iOS. So supposedly, when the new operating systems come out, you'll be able to start a watch party for movies and things like that, um, directly through like iMessages, and be able to invite friends to watch content that everybody has paid for, essentially. Hopefully that's how it works. I don't really know. But one of the things that Fitness Plus stated was that they're also including group workouts where you can start a workout directly from an iMessage uh, with you and up to 32 people. Um, the the data that's going to be shared uh, with with the people that you're working out with is going to be what's called a burn bar. So I guess the calories that are burned, um, and the ring status of the people that are performing the workouts with you. So you'll be able to tell when they close their rings versus when you close your rings. On your screen, you're going to be able to see all of your like other health-based telemetry. Like if you're wearing an Apple Watch, you'll be able to see your heart rate and kind of all that stuff. But that's not going to be shared with the people that you're working out with.
Okay.
Um, so I don't use Fitness Plus. I don't know anybody that does. Maybe this gets people to sign up for it if they can do workouts with their friends. I know, that that's a big thing for like people who own Pelotons, things like that. Like within their friend group, when one person gets a Peloton, other people tend to purchase them within the friend group so that they can work out together, um, as opposed to going to like a group cycling class. So maybe this is a feature that prompts more people to purchase, uh, Fitness Plus. I don't know, but it was something that they talked about. They did have,
Hmm.
and I didn't include this. I didn't include it here because, in order to get the full effect of this, you really have to watch the commercial with the audio. But they did have a pretty emotional commercial for Fitness Plus, um, where they talked about how like that you can do this anywhere, that there are no ceilings on this, at this gym. There are walls, but you can break through them, things like that.
Hmm.
It was a very well put together commercial. I looked on their website. I haven't checked their YouTube yet, um, but like on the Fitness Plus page of the website, it's not there yet. So I think in order to watch it right now, at least, you're going to have to watch the live stream that's on Apple's website, and then kind of fast forward to the Fitness Plus section of it. Um, it's definitely worth the watch, and I definitely think that they're going to be putting this, in commercials in the near future for pushing this Fitness Plus, service.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I wish I had more to say about it, but I'll be honest with you. Uh, I once owned an Apple Watch, and I did not like it. Um, I just thought that it was very cumbersome to use. Now, granted, like this was the first gen model, so it was probably pretty rough around the edges. Um, and like generally speaking, I'm just not really much of a watch person. So something like this, um, it's like it's pretty arcane to me. Like it becomes a little bit difficult to picture how people are really going to benefit from these things.
yeah, I definitely think it's getting more and more catered to people who are in the gym a lot, who are doing very active based activities, and things like that. There are some really nice functionality when it comes to like being able to filter calls and text messages and things like that, especially if you're in meetings all day and you really just kind of want to just get the people that you want to get notifying you. It's kind of like another layer on top of like do not disturb on the phone. um, but that's definitely not a reason to upgrade to this version. I think that if you've already got an Apple Watch, uh, and you're not super into fitness, I don't really see a big reason to update other than it having a brighter screen if that's something that you're into, and definitely the new watch faces are pretty cool, and you know that kind of thing. But other than that, I mean, it's going to be something that you probably could pass on. Uh, they did include, they did keep the titanium variant this go around, so apparently it sold enough to stick around. It wasn't like the ceramic that kind of went by the wayside, or the actual gold that was with the original version. So
Right. I remember that.
we'll we'll see. Um, the next thing, and I put a little bit of bias into this next slide, so just be aware. Um, but the next one is the iPhone 13.
I saw
It's
that. I saw that
it's
headline earlier.
it's the most meh iPhone I feel they've ever come out with. Um, there's really not a ton of new features. There's, you know,
There's a
I mean,
smaller
it's
notch.
yeah. They're again really scraping the bottom of the barrel here, like to come up with things to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, they included stronger glass, so hopefully it doesn't crack as easy. Um, they have a new back camera design. Cool, I guess. Um,
That's rough.
brighter, brighter display. They include this new thing called cinematic mode, which I'm going to get into in just a second. It's got a little bit bigger battery. They come out with some new colors. What are the colors on this one? Pink, blue, midnight, starlight, and product red.
Oh, thank God that
Um,
we have Starlight.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
That
Uh,
you did mention that was essentially like the color that we saw throughout the
yeah.
majority of the products. Now it's
So it's got a 28% brighter screen. Weird metric to give us. Doesn't seem like it's that much better. But
mm,
again, if you're really scraping for things to talk about, I guess that's a talking point.
yeah.
Um, it includes the A15 Bionic chipset. Um, it's got a 6-core CPU with 2 high performance and 4 high efficiency CPUs. That's 50% faster than the competition. Um, they did not give us, this is what was interesting, they did not give us metrics on how much faster it was compared to the previous generation. With this and the iPad Pro model, they only referred to the speed increases in relation to the competition, which they did not specify what competition it is.
Right.
Um, so, again, 4-core GPU, which is 30% faster than the competition. Um, they have a wide camera on the back, which has 40, that lets in 40%, 47% more light with an f1.6 aperture.
Okay.
Um,
Sounds pretty good. It's
yeah,
not a
def-
it's not a telephoto camera anymore.
definitely a decent camera. Um, I think they do have. I think that's the wide angle and the telephoto ultra wide angle is still
Mm.
there, but they didn't really speak on it. So, um, one of the things that they did speak on a lot is cinematic mode, which allows you to automatically rack focus your your video scenes. So, I have a clip here. Um, the way that they do it, not really a big fan. Um, you'll kind of tell in some of these scenes, it seems very jerky and fast.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, if you're rack focusing, it's going to be more of a natural transition,
Yeah.
but but that's what they went for, so that's what they got,
So
I guess.
is cinematic mode like a film a, a filming mode or is it that
Yes.
okay.
So, and it kind of shows you in that clip, basically some of the key functionality here is it holds focus on a subject. Um, the focus transitions happen automatically in real time from one subject to another. Basically, when another subject enters the frame, um, when the subject turns away from the camera, the iPhone automatically changes focus to, I guess, reference where they're looking. I don't really know. Um, you do have some manual control. You can tap once to shift focus to that particular object or person. If it is a person, you can tap again to lock and track focus on that particular person. Um, I don't really see, I mean, I definitely think it's cool to have. I think the implementation is not as natural as like some like what a true cinematic shot would look like when you're racking focus. Um,
Yeah, we saw quite a bit
but
of jittering, like when it was trying
yeah,
to switch the focus from one subject to another. Not even
and it
in the
kind of snaps,
commercials.
right?
Yeah,
Like
it's odd.
I don't know. Um, it was a feature that they were kind of harping on. It does now record in Dolby Vision HDR. So if that was something that you were interested in recording in, now you have that functionality. Um,
Huh.
but that's pretty much it for cinematic mode. Um, some of this other stuff they talked about in the keynote. Some of the stuff like the dual eSIM functionality was announced after the keynote was finished when Apple posted the tech specs on their website. Um, so it does have more 5G bands, um, which is going to allow them to enter a total of 60 countries by the end of this year with 5G and total 200 carriers. Um, so there's that. The dual eSIM thing is pretty cool. From somebody who used dual SIM on the previous, uh, on the iPhone 12, and I think the iPhone 11
Hmm.
prior to that. Uh, I do welcome the eSIM technology. What I have noticed though is if you're using a kind of cheaper carrier like T-Mobile or previously Sprint, they still charge you for the eSIM, which I think is ridiculous because you don't actually need to give you anything physically to enable eSIM. They could
It's just
send
an
you a
upgrade.
QR code. Yeah. Um, so it's not like you have a physical SIM card that they have to charge you $5 for, but they still charge you $5 for it. Anyways, AT&T, if you go to uh, AT&T corporate stores, won't charge you for an eSIM card. However, there's a lot of AT&T authorized resellers or independent resellers that are pretty hard to distinguish between, that and a corporate store. And those guys will charge you for an eSIM. So at least in the states, not a huge deal to have dual eSIM. But if you're traveling outside of the state, like my phone right now, this I use an eSIM as a primary SIM
Hmm.
on my phone, so I don't actually have a SIM card in the SIM slot. Um, this would be kind of beneficial if I was traveling, to Canada and I wanted to get a Canadian SIM or you know Canadian provider while I was in Canada.
Hmm.
Uh, it would be nice. The reason why I use eSIM now is because when traveling, it's a lot easier to get a physical SIM to put in than an eSIM. But good on them for you know giving us this functionality. I don't think it's going to allow us to have three separate carriers. I think it's going to still be limited to either two eSIMs or one eSIM and a physical SIM. I don't think that you can have a physical SIM plus two eSIM and have three providers on the phone.
Okay.
Uh,
I
they
think that makes a lot of sense, and the
Yeah,
pricing, it looks like that's also remained the same in comparison to last generations. And
yeah, exactly the same.
while we haven't looked at the Pro models quite yet, um, I think that these, yeah, like this, it should have just been an iPhone 12s.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
underwhelming.
I 100% agree. Um, they did introduce a new leather wallet that supports Find My, so you'll be able to tell when you left your wallet somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty interesting functionality. Um, but I don't think that, and I could be wrong. I don't think that it has full Find My support. Like for like if you had um, if you had a AirTag and you left it, you can enable lost mode, which would allow other devices nearby to kind of pick it up. I think it's going to function almost identical to the way the AirPods do now, in that it's going to monitor the last place that your iPhone connected to it, and that's it. You're not going to be able to put it into lost mode and have somebody else find it for you,
Fair
like
enough.
your phone or your iPad or the AirTags.
Yeah.
Um, it is thicker and heavier than the previous models. Um, this goes for both the iPhone 13, 13 Mini, 13 Pro, and the Pro Max. So there's that. Not a good thing. They didn't mention
No.
it, but like uh,
But
one
do
of
you
those
just
things
like
that once they,
notice it?
yeah, well, once they release the tech specs and you look at the tech specs, um, you can kind of you can cross reference that between the 12, and it is thicker and heavier. So
Okay.
not by a ton, but it is. So just be aware. Um, However, one of the things that you do gain is an hour and a half extra, or an hour and a half longer battery life on the Mini, and 2.5 longer battery life on the standard 13. Um,
Mm,
so get a little bit extra battery life there. I don't know if that makes up for the thickness and weight change, but
yeah.
again, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. So they're gonna tell you what they
Mhm.
can, and that was it. They did announce that they're doing away with the 64 gig model, and they're replacing that with 128 gigs to start. So
That's
that's good.
good.
Um, Definitely a welcome change, um, especially with you know people recording more video. Maybe I don't know. Um, I have I think a 256 gig on my 12, and I'm not even close to filling it up. So
I only have a 64 gig
are
storage
you?
capacity on my 12, and I just have a regular 12.
How can I ask how much is like what's the capacity at right now? Are
Sure.
you are you are you close to being full?
Highly doubt it because I barely take any pictures on it, barely
Yeah.
shoot any video on it, so cinematic mode might go right out of the window for me. But I'm gonna go ahead and check to see how much I have left, which should be a good chunk of it. Okay, so I have a little bit more than half left.
Yeah. See, I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't know. Like, to me, I think that there are two types of people that are going to buy this 13 model. Um, People that are trying to save a buck, that like maybe want like a cheaper iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
128 gigs, way more than enough. 64 gigs is probably fine, honestly. Like for most of those people, like my mom, for instance, will never fill up 64 gigs um, on her phone. So
I feel that, yeah.
you, like I think that that's where most of the people that are going to be purchasing this phone are going to lie. Most of the tech-minded people are probably going to go towards the pro models.
Okay.
Um,
Which,
so
let's take a look at.
yeah, so iPhone 13 Pro, just more advanced, meh.
Let's do it.
That's what we're getting here. Um, so, um, again, nothing too crazy. They do have um, new colors, graphite gold, not stardust or star bright. I don't know what.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't even know what it's called anymore. What star
Starlight.
whatever.
Well,
Starlight. That's it. Um, it's not called Starlight here. It's called gold, um, silver, and Sierra blue, which they talked about having to come up with new advanced technology to make the Sierra blue. So if you want
wow.
that blue, which is that color right there, they spent more time making it, I guess. Uh, I I
Well,
mean,
hey, more resources, right?
yeah. Um, honestly, everybody should be buying this one because at least it costed more to make in terms of R&D for Apple. If you're buying this phone, um, at least make them spend a little bit more money on it in the long run.
Honestly, yeah,
Some
I can agree with you, unironically.
Yeah, I mean, again, pretty disappointed in this, in this lineup. Um, three new cameras. So if you are a camera junkie and you use your phone for taking photos, maybe this is beneficial. To me, I have not been impressed in the last couple of iterations of iPhones, mainly because it has been what I felt really focused on camera upgrades. So, um, not a big fan here. What would have probably sold me on this 13 though would have been the ultra wide angle front facing camera that would have that um, whatever they call it, the um, thing where it follows you, whatever, like they do on the iPads. If
The
they would have
thing where it
included,
follows you? What do you mean?
yeah, um, hold on, let me back
Like the camera tracks you?
center center stage, yeah,
Uh,
um,
oh, okay, gotcha. I like
yeah. So
completely blanked out at that one, but yeah.
yeah, so if this 13 Pro would have had center stage, I may have considered purchasing it because I think it is a pretty cool feature. If I'm FaceTiming on my phone, not my iPad. So, I don't really see a benefit in upgrading an iPad for that.
Hmm.
If they would have included it here, which they probably should have, especially considering what else we got out of this,
Yeah.
um, it would have been a welcome feature, but they didn't. So we got a new 77 millimeter telephoto on the back. That is going to be, what do they say on this? It allows for 3 times optical zoom. Um,
Okay.
we've got a new ultra wide lens, which has 92% improvement in low light efficiency. It does have a larger f1.8 aperture um, on that ultra wide angle, so you're getting that. Um, the wide angle cameras, what they called it, has a 1.9 micron pixel sensor or something. I don't know. I feel like this is another one of those things that they just were trying to figure out something to talk about. So it's supposedly the largest sensor that they've put on a camera to date.
On the
So
phone.
yeah. So yeah, on their their hardware, I guess.
Hmm.
I, there's probably way better sensors on other Android-based phones, but yeah,
I,
this does include the ability to do macro photography, but it does not include a macro lens. They're doing it all software based. So the pictures that
mm,
they showed pretty good, but I don't know.
I can understand why they would do it that way because already trying to stuff in a fourth camera.
100%, yeah. I
It's
mean,
kind of overwhelming, I'd say.
yeah, and I guess you could do it when you've got three other cameras on the phone, but
Hmm.
I gotta think that you're optically zooming, probably that telephoto lens, um, to get that, and so I would assume there's going to be some graininess there. Uh,
Oh yeah,
but maybe I'm
most
wrong.
certainly.
Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, the photos that they showed, again, it was a keynote on a computer, but it did look pretty good. So yeah, I mean, again, cameras were a pretty big deal this time around. Um, so yeah, there's a new display though, on the pro versions. Um, they have ProMotion display, which will adaptively change the um,
The frame rate.
frequency from 10 hertz to 120 hertz, depending on what you're doing on the phone. So
Okay.
they're doing this to not have the display continuously running at 120 hertz and draining the battery, which is beneficial, and I think that's cool.
Would you have the
However,
option to turn that off? Because me personally, I would rather have 120 hertz active at all
all the
times.
time,
Yeah.
I, I mean, I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see what the settings looks like once we have a phone. They didn't mention anything about it, other than uh, that it dynamically kind of adapts. It has a brighter screen, so 1,000 nits peak outdoor brightness um, on the screen, which I think is up from 500 nits on the
I
previous version.
I
So
I believe so.
maybe doubled, or it might have been 750, and it's 25%. It's somewhere in there. 50% better graphics performance compared to the competition. Again, um, this one does include a 5-core GPU as opposed to the 4-core GPU that's included in the regular 13 and 13 mini. So
Hmm. Yeah, that seemed a little bit odd. An odd
yeah,
number of cores just seems a little weird.
again, I mean, it's a pretty meh device.
Yeah. Oh my. I mean, I'll be frank. I didn't really expect too much out of this event. I did not think that we were going to see AirPods either, and that unfortunately was true.
Yeah, I was really hoping for some new AirPods.
We're looking for the in-ears or like the Maxes.
So supposedly they were going to come out with AirPod 3s, which there probably still are, that are going to come out in maybe this October event,
Hmm.
which is that they're in ear but not the AirPod Pros.
Hmm.
Um, the AirPod Pros, I own a pair of both the AirPods and the AirPod Pros, um, and when I'm doing anything that's more active, just the way my ears are shaped, the AirPod Pros don't really stay in.
Hmm.
Um, so I prefer the regular AirPods. So I was really looking forward to an upgraded version of those, um, but didn't come around this time around.
No, but eventually for sure, because
Yeah,
like I do much prefer um the sitting on your ears design of the regular AirPods versus
like true
those ear
in ear with
tips.
the little
Yeah,
cushions. Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
especially if you turn on active noise canceling, it will give you cabin pressure pretty easily.
yeah. 100%. The only time I ever wear them now is on flights, and it's mainly because I had like some Beat Studios, and flying at some point I lost them somewhere because they're not the most convenient things to carry. Um,
Oh, I bet, yeah. It's a pretty big
so
set of cans.
yeah. So other things that is included here, um, photographic styles, which is just the ability to set your own preference to the tone and warmth of photos or videos that you're taking,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll basically save those preferences so you can apply that to all the photos and videos that you're taking. So if you are a photographer that primarily shoots on, your phone, you can add your own kind of unique look to the photos. Um, Larger battery life, again, 1.5 hours for the Pro, 2.5 hours for the Pro Max. Um, so nothing too crazy there. They Same thing with the 13. They have 128 gig, 256, and 512.
Mm-hmm.
With the Pro model, you also get 1 terabyte of storage. I haven't even looked at how much that's going to cost on a Pro Max.
That's just insane.
You're probably pushing $1,600. I I mean, I would I
No,
would think. Um,
I would double that.
so really?
Yeah, because
Good God.
on the iPad Pro, for instance, you have the option for 128 gigs, 256, 512, 1 terabyte, and then 2 terabytes. And the price differences between the 128 model and the 1 terabyte model, even like it, I believe that it is closer to $1,000. And then for the 2 terabyte one, it goes even further than that.
So I just pulled it up because I was really curious. Um, it looks like it's $15.99 for the 1 terabyte. Um, it's a $200 increase going from 512 to 1 terabyte. So if you're getting the Pro Max with 512 gigs, you're looking at $1,399. So $1,400. If you want the 1 terabyte, $1,600.
Okay, interesting.
Again,
Lower than I
why?
thought.
Way too much though. Like for what they're giving you,
Mm-hmm.
not having it.
Absolutely. But, well, at least we get the opportunity to pre-order on September 17th. So, do ready your wallets and your PayPal credits. And just to let everybody know as well, it is going to be available on September 24th.
Yeah. Pre-orders are gonna start at 5 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So, Zach, if you're buying it, you're waking up pretty early in the morning. That looks like what 1 a.m. your time.
What what time is it where you are?
Right now it is. I don't even know. 10:19.
Yeah, currently it's 12:19 over here, so I would have to wake
Good
up
God.
2 hours earlier.
No, 3 hours because I'm still an hour behind Cupertino time. So if you're buying this, you're waking up, 4, 3, 2 o'clock maybe.
Oh well, that's it. They lost me there. They lost another customer with that one.
especially especially for like this like super n- really like not great phone. I mean, if you've got an iPhone 12, I don't really see a reason in upgrading. Like 120 hertz refresh rate's cool and all, but like
It's the only thing I really care about when it comes
ex-
to any of
ex-
these new announcements.
exactly, that's the thing. Like really that's what you're paying for if you're upgrading is the 120 hertz refresh rate, or if you're a camera junkie,
And the
you're
blue
paying
color.
for yeah, that too. You're definitely paying for the blue color. If you're a camera junkie, you're paying for the cooler, newer cameras. But I mean, dude, the iPhone 12 has really good cameras already. Like,
Hmm.
I don't see it being so drastically better that people are going to go out there and upgrade from a 12. Now, if you have a 10 or maybe an 11, maybe. Um,
I actually don't even think so. My mom has an 11, and she's actually very happy with it. And I have taken pictures using her phone like not that long ago, and it still looks really good. So when it comes to the camera, upgrades really, unless you're going with the pro model, it doesn't really make much sense to upgrade at all.
Yeah, I don't see anybody like I don't know any of my friends that are going to be purchasing a 13.
I don't know
Maybe,
anyone that would buy a mini.
yeah, no, for sure, no.
Yeah.
Like maybe, maybe if I maybe know one or two people that might be purchasing the 13 Pro or the Pro Max,
Mm-hmm.
just because they're two or three iterations behind, and you know they were waiting on an announcement, regardless of what it was, to purchase a new phone. Um, but
Yeah.
I mean, not super impressed with the overall um, keynote. I'll tell you this: my bank account probably really thankful, because I'm typically one of those guys that's like, oh, Apple came out with something new. Let me purchase a new iPad and a new iPhone and a new Apple Watch. Like all the new things. I want them all. Um, I don't see my. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably gonna purchase the watch, but only really because I'm trying to get back into fitness, and I try and want to be, um, a little bit more active, and I'm, like an iteration behind already.
Oh,
So
oh, oh my.
you know, I know, but first first world problems for sure.
Everyone's going to laugh at you when you walk out
Yeah,
of your house now.
yeah. I mean, thank God I'm not in high school because I would not. I would not be sitting at the cool table
Yeah, you'd
for
be
sure.
in the lockers full time.
Yeah, 100%. Um, okay, that's pretty much it. That's all I got. Were there any questions on your side?
Actually, every question that I would have had has already been answered. You offered a very detailed presentation here, so I think I
I
learned
mean,
everything about this phone that I would need
wh-
to know.
what did you think? Like overall impressions. Like, how are you feeling about this keynote?
I like that they showed off a lot of hardware. I just don't like that a lot of it was so underwhelming, for the exception of the iPad mini, in my opinion at least. I know that you
Yeah.
were impressed by the watch. I really want to see the keyboard in action on that watch.
Oh, I'm gonna be doing so much keyboard typing on that watch. It's gonna be unreal. I I I might even get rid of my phone. I might just be on that watch from now on.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
just
hey,
it's a possibility.
yeah. So,
But
what are your thoughts then?
I'm really really unimpressed. Like honestly, this is probably the first keynote I have been underwhelmed by other keynotes that Apple has done in the recent years. Um, this is probably the first one that I'm disappointed in. What was announced. Maybe that's here's the thing. I think that a lot of people are going to give them, a pass because it was, during the pandemic. Here's the deal. The like Apple's Apple's R&D is 3 to 6 years ahead of what's out now. So, we're not really even seeing the true like hurt from Apple when it comes to not being able to work, you know, on campus and things like that. And we won't see that probably for the next year or two. So giving them a pass here for an underwhelming, keynote because of COVID is not really doing anyone justice. I think Apple really should have brought more to the table here. I think they probably could have done a lot more. Like just even some quality of life improvements and some of these things would have been nice. Maybe a new feature or two. Like I don't know, man. Like it just seems like they could have done so much more and they intentionally scaled back. I think because they were expecting the pass from, the the people that are covering this kind of stuff. Like, I don't think that
Frankly,
they're gonna.
I think that they really could have skipped a release this year and just given us the iPhone 13 next year, because like considering the chip shortages and everything, I did kind of think that that's probably what was going to end up happening, but that was obviously not the case. However, what we got in return was something that just isn't worth the upgrade this time around. And with another year, they would have a lot more
Yeah,
to
yeah.
improve upon.
And we just got through last year of Apple toting, like, hey, these phones are getting a little bit more expensive, but they're meant to last you 3 to 5 years or whatever they had said. I mean, they had really made it a point that these phones were supposed to be multi-year phones moving forward.
Hmm.
So I mean, they could have been well within their right to say, like, last year we told y'all that these were going to be multi-year phones. We're going to
Hmm.
hold off on releasing one this year. We're just going to maybe make it a little bit cheaper for y'all guys. Um, and we'll see you next year with a, a bigger update. That does break the mold for Apple. Apple has been very consistent about putting out a new phone pretty much every year.
Yeah.
Um, to a year to, I think the longest they went was a year and 4 months since the release of the first iPhone back in 2007. But I mean,
Hmm.
with what
Okay.
we got, I don't really see this as a true new phone. I like this is like less than an S. This is like if S stands for like sportier, this is like this is if the S's are typically BMWs of the like in the car world, that's what it would equate to. This refresh was like a Kia. We got a Kia um, refresh. We did not get a
Damn.
BMW.
You were
We didn't even
harsh.
get we didn't even get a Chevy. Like we got we got like it seems like Apple went back to their R&D team and they were like, okay, whatever we had planned, let's let's push that to next year. Let's give them like all the like maybe the stuff that we were gonna release on the 12 that
Hmm.
we didn't have enough time to put in. Let's just do that stuff. And let's give them that. You know, and
Yeah.
it's almost comical. Like you, we got like an hour and a half more battery life. That's come like you didn't give us much here. Like, give us 3 to 5 hours extra battery life, maybe, or
That might not be so easy to accomplish, but like that would have been a worthy upgrade.
exactly. Like, you've got to at least give us something that's worth. You've got die-hard Apple fans that are gonna update to everything just
Right.
because it's the newest Apple thing, right? And that's probably why they released this. Because they knew they're gonna capture that market. I can't see like an internal, Apple meeting with them going, "Hey, we think that this is really going to sell. Like we've got enough new features here that people are really going to be super interested in, getting up, especially in the heat of COVID when we were having labor shortages and rents skyrocketing and everything else. I can't imagine them sitting in a meeting and saying these features are definitely going to make people set aside $1,000 of their hard-earned money to purchase a new phone. And so they're playing devil's advocate. People are probably not going to spend $1,000 outright. They're going to trade in their phone. They're going to get a phone credit, and
Yeah.
they're going to put it on some type of subsidy.
Mm.
Whether it be the Apple upgrade plan or AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile's. You
Right.
know
And, like the 2 year financing plans and
exactly.
things like that. I mean, that's how a lot of how a lot of us gain access to these phones. Uh, because like just dropping $1,000 all at once is a very big decision to be made. That if you have a one bedroom apartment somewhere in Wyoming, then that could very well be your rent.
Yeah, yeah, that's a month's rent over here. Um, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm typically an Apple fanboy. I have bought every iPhone that they've come out with since the first generation. I had the first generation. I bought it a month after the first gen iPhone came out. And I've had and owned every iPhone since. Maybe not. I think I skipped the 8 because that year the 10 also came out, and I purchased the 10 instead.
Mm.
Um, but for the most part, I've owned at least one of every year models phone. This is going to be the first year that I don't purchase the new phone. There is absolutely nothing here that prompts me to set aside some money, regardless of how much they give me for a trade-in for the new phone. You know,
Yeah. I don't think that it really would be worth it at this stage. However, I have said my piece, and I have to go to work tomorrow. So
yeah,
I'm gonna have to cut it here. Thank you so much, everybody, for jumping in, and especially you, Hack Breaks. Thank you so much for organizing all of this because you summed everything up, and like we got to have a pretty cool discussion about it. So thank you so much.
yeah, no problem. Anytime. I'm glad that we were able to do this.
Absolutely, and I look forward to be able to doing it again. To those of you on chat, I am so sorry for ignoring you, but thanks to all of you for jumping in, and I do wish all of you a wonderful night as well. So
All right.
yeah, until next time, enjoy.
Later, guys.